Welcome to the Probate Mastermind Podcast. These episodes are recorded live once a week and are hosted by the alltheleads.com coaches. Agents, investors, and wholesalers join the coaches for everything from marketing tips, sales psychology, live deal analysis, transaction engineering, advanced real estate strategy, and personal development. You will learn to get more listings, more deals, and find financial freedom by listening to these episodes. Be sure to catch show notes at alltheleads.com/podcast and join our free Facebook mastermind community, All the Leads Mastermind.
Welcome to all of our formidable agents and investors nationwide. That was formidable, Tim. You like that one? Thank you, sir. Today is Thursday, January 28th, 2021, and this is Mastermind Podcast number 312. One brief announcement from me before we forget. Next Wednesday, February 3rd at 2 p.m., it is the first Wednesday of the month, so we will do our February role play call. And we will do it on time this week without any this month, without any technical difficulties. If y'all haven't been on a role play call before, this call today is pretty much you set the agenda. Questions, answers, struggles, wins. The role play call, the intention is to practice with our coaches and each other places that maybe we're getting stuck in our conversations. And if any of you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to those, they're well worth listening to. They're always different. We have different things pretty much come up on every call. So be there next Wednesday at 2 p.m. And we have a pretty full queue. So let's get right to the first caller. First up this week, and you've been waiting for 20 minutes. I think you were the first on the call. Phone number ending in 0544. You're up first. Are you there?
Yes, right here. It's Mike.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, Grand Prairie, Texas, right?
Yeah, it's Denton, Texas, actually in DFW area, a little bit more north. Yeah, I'm with you guys for a little bit more than a year now. With Probate Plus, I'm really ramping back up again. I'm a Mike Ferry agent for 15 years, used to the probate. Used to prospecting and prospecting hard with expired. Those have waned quite a bit, and I'm loving the fact that I'm carving out a niche with the probate, kind of a sustainable niche competitively, and because it's hard to get into. And as I'm finding my way through it, I've got all the kinks worked out by taking the database from you guys, working it through Mojo, do a single dialer, all of that kind of thing. One of the things that I have, it's at a 30,000 foot level on strategy, and Bruce, from what I've heard, maybe it's more like your strategy. But given that I've got Probate Plus and paying for the extra leads, that kind of thing, wouldn't it be better to go ahead and receive the leads, make a one-time call through, and I'm just going to say it, I know some of you will argue with me on this. I'm going to pick, first of all, sort and pick those properties or those leads that have properties, those leads that aren't in MLS, and I'm going to go to those first and work those hard. And then my list is considerably shorter, both from weeding those out as well as calling through them, and then maybe with a month lag time, make my first letter out. I guess my question is that a better way to do it rather than float the first letter out with, for instance, I just got one for January. There were 85 in Denton County. When I whittled it down, it got down to 59. And I get it that Probate Plus can help me save money. And I want to be not just sending 3 letters, which I'm doing now, but like I heard, I think you say, Bruce, in the past, I want to send 12 monthly letters. Mm-hmm. Because I talked to someone the other day. In fact, unfortunately, one of my parents had died about 2 years ago, and that's why I noticed that I had all the things that I needed for other people to go through this. So that's been my mantra when I go into this prospecting. But I actually talked to someone that the probate was so old, it was almost 2 years ago when my father died. It was the deceased date, and she was just getting around to get the probate hearing. Mm-hmm. So I get it that they age well, but wouldn't it be a more effective, and guys, I'm not trying to take any money out of your mouth, but hey, maybe it'd be more money if I've only got, 12 months from now, 10 people to send it to, and I want to spend the money on that. All right, I'm done with my question. Sorry. I know that was long.
Do you want to go first, or you want me to?
Certainly, it can't be the first time this has been brought up.
No, not at all.
No.
Bruce, I'm going to defer to you. I would say, though, that there isn't a right or wrong way. It's not a one-size-fits-all program. We're big believers, and it's more about what works for you than what's going to net us the most income. Believe me, I appreciate you saying that, but that's not an issue. I would say that personally, I would send everybody at least one letter because of the Just personally, I've done deals where I think the longest I did was 3 years ago. I had sent them a letter, never spoke to them, never got in touch with them, and they put my letter away and they were finally ready to do something. Unless I disqualified somebody, I'd make sure everybody gets a letter. And Bruce, I'll let you finish because I do concur with Bruce that more is probably better. But
in my example, the lady who called me from the deceased 2 years ago, she didn't have any property. So, in fact, unfortunately, he had been murdered and people stole all of his belongings from the apartment that he lived in. And again, that's just one letter, and I know that's just one time, but in the sense of being a businessman and trying to be efficient, I'm going to do the work, but I want to do the work smart.
Yep.
Bruce, it's all.
I'm going to tell you first what I do, and then I'm going to take your example, and I'm going to tell you why you might not want to do that and why you should do that. So essentially, we're going to go at 3 angles here. I put a 7-day delay on my letters. I don't go a month, only 7 days, and that gives me a chance to get through that list at least one time and scrub the list down. I'm using Probate Plus to scrub some people out, and I'm using my phone calls to scrub some people out. Now, in the beginning of a probate campaign, you have to consider your competition. And if you're close to the DFW area, there's probably going to be competition. And so a reason that you might want to put a 30-day delay on your letters is it gives some of that competition a chance to burn itself out. The reason that you might want to just send your letters out on day 1 or day 7 is there is definitely some low-hanging fruit that if you haven't put a letter in front of them, you don't have much of a chance of getting if they're not answering the phone. So at least you get an early message in front of those. With that said, I'm personally a big fan of calling through my list at least one time before they get a letter from me. It really saves me money if I can get 10% of the list to answer and say, hey, we're never going to sell. That saves me a considerable amount of money over the life of a campaign. And I wasn't going to mail those people anyway, but I was certainly going to call them. So it doesn't hurt to call on day 1, day 2, day 3, and then send your letter on a slight delay. I could make the case why a month would be good, but I can also make a case that you're probably missing some low-hanging fruit occasionally by waiting a month.
Right. Let me chime in as well and add one other little 10 cents on this. The one thing that you need to realize is that the whole part of this is monitoring your results as you go. And my recommendation, this is Tim, what I would recommend that you look at is that if you're just getting started and trying to make sure you do the best thing in your market, the one thing you don't always know is, in fact, what may be going on in regard to your competition and all of that. And you mentioned how many leads you get and all of that. If you do a mailing and you do it early and you do it first and you don't wait and you see what the results are, and then you take another round, look at the results that you get over your first couple of sets of leads that you do that with, and you'll know the right answer. That's the point. Anything else is subjective. You're guessing, and we'd be guessing. A lot of it depends on the market. It also depends on what happens in your court system, because sometimes your courts aren't clearing things as quickly as others, and we don't know. We can only give you the data that comes out. So I always encourage people when they ask is take a whack at it, but make sure you carefully monitor the results. When you do the mailing, when you finally get at it, if you get some phone calls back or if you talk to people that say they got your letter and it helped soften that first call, then that's a good thing. If you don't hear anything at all back, you're not getting any good results, then maybe mailing early is not necessarily the best thing to go do. But if you don't do it, you will never know what you're missing in the beginning. And I'd go back to what Bruce said. Again, not trying to talk you out of spending more money, but you don't know what you're missing unless you try it. So it's cool to just let it sit there.
Totally hear you guys on that. And this is with about 9 months in and seeing it's about the second letter that hits that I get something. And frustration before Probate Plus of having the riffraff that I had to weed through. And now it's much more streamlined. I really love it. You guys really have done a fantastic job, and I've been really talking it up. But I appreciate that. So just a follow-up question. So a lag time can be done through Mailbox Motivator?
Sure. You just have to tell us what you want to do.
Okay. Fair enough. And Bruce, I think I heard on one of the recordings that kind of your script on that is, have you received my letter yet? Knowing full well that if you were in the first week and you called on day one and you have a 7-day lag time, that it's not a bad question. It's a great question. You're not lying. They haven't got it, but it's a good opener. Is that kind of your tact on that?
Yeah. Did you happen to receive a letter from me yet? I'm not saying that I sent one. I'm just asking if they happen. And you'd be surprised how many people say, yeah, I think so. My follow-up to that is usually, I don't imagine you've had a chance to read that, have you? Which is, I know for a fact that they haven't. Okay. And
have you seen my sold signs in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Everything. Hey, and one other thing, Bruce, mark my name down if you could. I'd be interested in talking to you about coaching.
Great. Yeah, perfect. Let me go ahead and what's the last 4 of your phone number? I'll have Jim send me a message afterwards.
6501.
601. Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Mike, I had one thing. Oh, you're very welcome. Can you hear me?
Jim.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I think I'm back now. Yeah, I was just going to say, Mike, as I said, this program isn't a one-size-fits-all. I was a Mike Berry coach, too. With your training and your experience, you're a prolific prospector. It's never bad to have an introduction, but for other people listening on this call that maybe aren't as experienced at making the calls, that first letter can be an icebreaker. You may need an icebreaker a little bit less than somebody else that isn't as seasoned at prospecting as you are. That's the only thing I was going to just add for other people listening.
And one other thing let me throw in about that is this, that you also, if you're following our lead, one of the things we do is recommend that, and we always use colored envelopes when we can, when people want to go do that. And if you pick a color that you use for each of the mailings that you do, you could also say, even if it's in the early mailing or the second mailing or whatever, you've probably seen my blue envelopes. You may be ignoring them. A lot of people, I'm sure you get a lot of mail, but mine are the ones in the blue envelopes. And typically people look at their mail as it's coming in. They may not open it all, but now they'll remember they got some blue envelopes. So it's another thing that you can call out. So even if they even didn't look at the first one, they'll know they got something in a blue envelope. They'll remember who you are, and you've gotten a little warmth in that call to start with. It's also one of the reasons that we typically recommend you use that colored envelope so that you can call it out.
Great tip. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. We have 5 more in the. Thank you. 5 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 5464. You're up next.
Hey, this is Eddie Van Buskirk.
Hey, Eddie.
I'm glad I set a reminder for this call. I was doing an assignment contract on a property. My buyer went to go close. He closed yesterday, and the seller texted me this morning when they're about to go close. He said, I'll just read it to you. It's short. He said, hey, we have a problem, Eddie. My wife and brother don't want to sell the house because they think the house is worth more than your offer. My buddy from the appraisal office called me and said my mother's house is worth more than $21,000, so we need to talk sometime today. We already talked, and I've been straight up with him the whole time. I've told him that it will be worth more. Like I run a business, and he knows that I need to make money. We started this process in June. They said I made them an offer of $16,000. They said they were going to clean it out and see if we could get more money. Then they didn't do anything for about 5 months, and then I went over there with my assignment buyer because I have a good relationship with him. So he told me what he'd be able to pay. I gave him a little bit less offer, which was higher than the original $16,000. So it came up to $21,000. So it worked out well. We've had a nightmare with the title, just getting it clean, and I've been doing all this. It sounds like they want me to pay them for sentimental value. How do I? So I'm having a conversation with all 3 of them and myself, so 4 of us this afternoon at 3:30. How do I talk to them about the sentimental value?
So I think that you need to start with questions. So you need to kind of start with, hey, look, I appreciate that you guys are wanting to have a conversation about this. Could you fill me in a little bit on what kind of value you're looking for out of this and where it's coming from? Okay, so find out what they're thinking. They might be thinking $23,000. We don't know until they say. And then ask them if they've thought about what kind of work it's going to require of them to get whatever value they're thinking. And that's the big thing, is because they sat on this property since June without cleaning it out. Who's going to do who's going to do the clean out, who's going to make the repairs, who's going to actually boost the property value. And a lot of times I would bet they're not recognizing the pain and the frustration that it's going to take to get what they think it's worth. And of course, they might have a completely unrealistic expectation of whatever that new price is. So you're coming to the conversation with a lack of clarity on what's even going on in their mind. So you need to sit down, write out a handful of questions so that you really understand where they're coming from, why this is coming up now, what they're thinking, and then ultimately what they think the time and effort you've put in so far has been worth. Because like you said, you had to clean title up. You had to do a whole lot of work here. I want to give them an opportunity, even if things start to fall apart, I want to give them an opportunity to recognize what you've brought to the table and offer you something for the effort you've put in.
Yeah.
Also, the other question is, if they're going to look for maximum dollar on the property, are they looking to list it and sell it, which would mean they'll sit on it for a while, and you have to look at what the value of money is today versus the future value of money. But I'd hit on what Bruce said first. You're having a data-free conversation unless you know what they're looking for, and you may be surprised that another couple of grand might do the trick for you, and you can go back to your assignment buyer and look at the same set of dollars and saying, hey, they came back up, meet me halfway, do what you got to go do, and you can get this done in a snap. But until you know what they're looking for, you're twisting in the wind without really knowing what you're playing through.
And Eddie, do you have a legitimate signed executed contract?
I believe we went out of so technically I'm out of. That's a great question. I went out of contract at the end of November or the end of December. We were supposed to be done by then. That's on me for not getting it updated. But yes, at one point I did, but right now I am out of contract on that. So,
were these other parties, were they involved from the beginning, or have you only been dealing with the principal, the PR?
When I started back in June with them, I met the brother, the PR, and then I made him an offer, and then his brother didn't like it, so then we all got on the phone together. So I've never met him, but I've been on the phone with him, but he really didn't have too much. He just was like, yeah, I'll help get the house cleaned up. When they called me back in like October and were like, hey, we've got the house cleaned out, come take a look at it again. Literally nothing had changed. And we walked in the house and the PR himself was like, he told me it was cleaned out and everything is still here. Yeah. His wife, I've never interacted with his wife though.
What you want to do when you have a conversation with them and you get some more information, and provided what they think the house is worth is realistic, okay, and they might be totally unrealistic, we don't know. But provided it's realistic, you're probably going to want to say, okay, let's review the comps, let's review the information, and are you willing to do, it looks like, let's say they want $40,000. So it looks like $40,000 is a better number for you guys. Are you willing to do these 10 things? And so just list off a series of things that they're going to have to do, including a listing, including commissions, including potential buyer closing costs and all those things that go into a traditional sale, and say, are you willing to do that, or should we just come together and try to reinforce or come up with a new agreement with me? Odds are they're not really thinking clearly about how much the house is worth in its current condition and how much work is going to need to go into putting a new deal together.
Eddie, one of the reasons I asked you if you had a legitimate contract, I would do everything that Tim and Bruce said, take the highest road first. But in most states, if you have a legitimate contract, you could record the contract against the property, or you could record a notice of interest and get some leverage to at least be, not that you're going to play hardball, but get some leverage to be at least compensated for what you have done so far. If they're really not giving any value to that, and even though you might be a couple weeks past the closing date, again, I'm not playing amateur attorney here, but most contracts allow for a reasonable delay unless it says time is of the essence. So I guess you just got to weigh the risk reward. If you feel you deserve to be compensated and they are breaking the agreement, that may be an option for you. I'm not going to. Okay. It just depends on how far you want to push it, and if you think it's worth it or not.
And what is it going to be? What does the house look like it's worth, Eddie, when all said and done after the repairs? What's the house going to be worth on the market?
So I did one right around the corner from that house. That's probably the most the nicest house in the neighborhood by far for $80,000.
Okay, and what's your assignment buyer? What's your assignment buyer looking for?
What do you mean? He's going to keep.
What are they looking to pay?
Oh, he's paying $26,000. He's paying $26,000.
Got it.
So
you don't have a lot of room there, right?
No. What I did think. Tell me what you guys' thoughts are on this. If it does come down to a sentimental thing, if they agree with me on all this other stuff and it comes down to a sentimental thing, what are your thoughts on me being like, it sounds like your mom was a very special person, she's very important to you, and you want to honor her memory rights. What are your thoughts? What if I buy you a $250 gift card to the steakhouse and you guys can all go out to dinner and have a dinner about your mom?
That's tough, man. That's tough. They may not get along. They may not be getting along well at this point because one of them was ready to sell it for what you wanted to buy it for, and the other two aren't. I think you're maybe playing with – it's a nice idea. You might be playing with fire.
Okay. If I do it, I'll be sure to report back. I just was trying to figure out what non-monetary thing could I give them that might help them.
Is there any – do you think there's any elasticity on your buyer? I think if you have to pay more for it, is your buyer going to be willing to come up with some more money? If you said the house around the corner, you got it to 80, what's it going to need to get to be comparable to the one that you did already? Does it need a new roof? Got to be rewired, all new plumbing, bathrooms? What's it going to take?
Yeah, just about everything. That's what I did with the other one around the corner. A new roof, new kitchen, new bath, new plumbing, mold removal. I think the electrical is okay actually in this one, but quite a bit. The buyer is a good friend of mine, so if I need to work out something with him, I'm sure he'd be flexible with me. It's not an issue.
Yeah,
if you could take it to 80 by putting 20 in it, if you could take it up to 80 by putting 20 in it, that's a pretty nice spread. You've got some room to play on the bottom if your buyer's willing to move, but if you've only got, $5,000 to play with right now, you don't have a lot of room to negotiate.
Yeah.
Got to start with what they want.
Lots to chew on, Eddie. Please get back and let us know how it goes. Hopefully we gave you some ideas that'll work. All right, you're very welcome.
Yes.
We have 3 more in the queue, guys. We got plenty of room for more. Just hit *6 and hit 1. In the meantime, next up is phone number ending in 0544. You're up next.
Okay, this is Jim from Long Island again. I wasn't trying to jump in as the first caller ahead of the fellow from Texas, but it seems like both our numbers end with 0544, unless I misunderstood.
You're correct.
Okay, what are the odds? Yeah. Okay, resubscribed to ATL a few weeks ago, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, of the various services that we offer through the sales letters, which single one seems to be a bit more popular with executors that are intending to sell the house, and how do they prefer to pay for it? From the deceased's remaining funds, their own money, or are they looking for me to finance?
It's normally going to be – Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead, Jim. You start.
No, I'm just going to say my own experience, it's not even close. It's the stuff in the house, getting rid of the stuff in the house, figuring out what's there, what it's worth, what do I do with it. That's the number one. And go ahead, Bruce. You can add to that, I'm sure.
Okay.
So normally they pay for it with the deceased remaining funds. Sometimes if they don't have remaining funds or liquid assets in the estate, then they'll pay for it out of pocket and then get reimbursed. If they don't have any money, your third choice is that you could front the money for an interest rate, or front the money and then take a larger commission or a larger equity position in the property. And I agree with Jim. It's not even close. It's usually cleaning the property out. Now, with that said, almost nobody ever calls me and says, hey, Bruce, we really need help cleaning the property out. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that they don't need that help, but it's our job as prospectors and professionals to present that option in an appealing and compelling way, because most people, until they know you, they're not going to be like, oh, you know what, I have this random stranger that just sent me a letter. Let me call him and bring him in to clean the house out. They don't think that. So the offer that we make is all about building more rapport. And then there comes a point where you say, do you mind if I make a proposal? That's my favorite gate to get into presenting the option. I'll say it sounds to me like, based on our conversation or our conversations in the past, you guys are stuck or dealing with this and this. Why don't I come out there and take a look at the house and just tell you that some of the things that I could take off your plate? You're going to have to get really strong on the phone with people to actually get some of these people to take you up on the offer to help them with a clean out, to help them with maintenance, to help them with repairs, estate sales, anything like that. It starts with you and the way that you offer it or the way that you present it. And I don't know about the other subscribers. I think I know about the other subscribers. I coach most of you. It's pretty rare that somebody just calls up and says, hey, could you come out and send somebody to cut my grass or help me clean the house out? It just doesn't happen. So we take charge and are the impetus to spur that action along.
So the executors that intend to sell the house, they're looking for a clean out, but not so much improvements. Are they looking for upgrades to make a grandma's home look more modern, or they just want to clean out and sell it clean?
They don't know what they don't know. If you presented an appealing case for upgrading the house, they'd probably take it. But most of the time, they're not just going to take that action without you proposing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Jim. I would add to that also, Jim, that very rare that they're looking to get top dollar for the house. The vast majority of them want the hassle over with. They want to get the funds. They want to split it up among the heirs. And so I can't remember somebody calling and saying, hey, the roof's leaking or the appliances are old. Do you know anybody can fix them up so we can get top dollar for the house? It's just not. This niche is usually more about time than getting top dollar. But like Bruce said, for some people, if you offer that option, they might take it up. But most of them calling in just want it off their plate. They want the stuff out of there. They want it sold, and they want to cash out quickly.
I was thinking about offering 3 options. The mini rehab for a top dollar sale. Number 2 would be the clean out and clean up and sell. And number 3 would be as is to a flipper. Is that too much to offer, or should I cut it down to just the 2 things, or are the 3 choices, mini rehab, clean up, and sell to flipper? Okay.
Are you also licensed to list? Can you list their home, or are you a wholesaler?
I'm licensed, I'm a licensed agent and licensed contractor.
Those 3 options sound good. Normally, I'll add a few extra options in, but not in what I present. So I'm going into an appointment like that, trying to understand, normally before I go on the appointment, what's more appealing to them? Is it more appealing to them to just be done with it and not have to do anything else to the house? Or is it more appealing to them to get closer to full value?
Right.
And so I go already eliminating a few options that based on our conversations. And then when I walk in, I'm going to try to narrow down through questions and conversation that typically the 2 of my multiple options, the 2 that are going to fit them best. And that's what I present. And I say, which one of these sounds better to you guys? And I let them choose. 3 is sometimes too many. 2 choices is normally best.
Okay. Lastly, do we have any presentation paperwork to present the options on? Is there any format that you guys already have that could be easily followed?
Get with me. We'll have somebody reach out and get you on a coaching call with me. Okay. I personally have a letter of intent that I'll fill out, and sometimes it has a few options on it. It's always fluid, and it looks like whatever my last deal looks like. And then I also run a menu where when I go in, I'll usually present to someone a menu of services and let them choose which menu item they want. And that usually has 3 or 4. It's geared toward listings, but it usually has 3 or 4 different things that they can choose from, ranging in service and commission.
Okay. Is this Bruce I'm speaking with now?
Yeah, it's Bruce. Okay,
we already have a scheduled call next week.
Perfect.
Great.
Yep.
Right.
Make sure you bring the menu up and the letter of intent.
Okay. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Awesome. Hey, Jim, I was just gonna add real quick. Your question, in a way, reminds me of a question we get a lot of times when a realtor is an investor. Which hat do I wear on the call? And you want to have, like Bruce said, you want to have multiple hats on hand. But in the initial conversation, if you ask good questions, they'll usually disqualify one of them. You know what I mean? If the urgency is there, then listing it may not be an option. If the urgency isn't there, then, an investor quick sale may not be an option. So have as many options prepared, but usually, but I agree 100% with Bruce. By the time you get to the appointment, you're probably going to know which one or two. You're probably going to know which one they're going to take, but you probably want to give them an option anyway. People love to buy. They hate to be sold. They like to make decisions. They don't like to be told what to do. But it's all asking good questions from the beginning, and it sounds like you got a pretty good handle on that already.
It sounds great advice. Thanks, fellas.
All right. Thank you. We have 2 more in the queue, guys, so we got 20 minutes yet. Don't be shy. Jump in there. Hit *6 and hit 1. Next up is phone number ending in 7225. You're up next.
Yeah, this is Jerry with RE/MAX in Colorado. And
yes, sir.
I'm happy to be on the call today. And 2 things I question. One, I'm currently getting the leads for Denver County, which usually turns out to be about anywhere 50 to 60 leads. And after it's been whittled down to the ones on real estate, probably about 20 or 25. And in this Colorado market, just along the Front Range here, it's very competitive. Even a house that's not habitable and has been damaged by fire goes for $250,000 because someone will buy it, fix it up, and sell it for $400,000. So there's just a myriad of sources reaching out when a potential property becomes available. And one thing, I'm more familiar with Adams County, which is just north of Denver. That's where I live. Although I do work some in the Denver market, I'm more comfortable with the Adams County market. And just wanted to talk to you. Do you think it might be a consideration for me to move my subscription over to Adams County and out of Denver County? And then the second thing I wanted to discuss with you was maybe I could set up a coaching with Bruce to really structure my initial call. I only have about 30 or 40 seconds going to Grant Cardone. Your introduction and reason you're calling and qualifying them should take about less than a minute. And simply, I'm identifying with the people that receive the calls because I get a lot of calls myself for windows, for whatever, just as a consumer. So I want to really have it correct when I call them and consider moving my subscription to Adams County. So if you could address those 2 things for me.
I'll address the coaching and the call real fast. I won't go into great detail on the structure of your call, but I will tell you to schedule your coaching call. Just go into your subscriber portal and click the training drop-down, and there's a button that says schedule a free coaching call. Do that, and then it's going to book through Calendly, and it's going to ask you to add a note on specific topics that you want to discuss. Definitely add a note that we need to cover the call structure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Jim?
And then, and Bruce, I'll ask your salesperson to reach out to you, maybe look at the numbers and the competition. There may be an advantage to Adams if there's less competition, but I believe that's certainly something to consider. You may want to do like a split test on them. How long have you been working Denver? Did you just start working them?
About 4 months.
Okay. And what are you finding? Are you finding that a lot of them are already listed or sold by the time you speak to them, or is it just you're just not getting any traction, or both?
Some of them are that way, and there's not much. I've not gotten any calls just from the mailings, but once again, there's so much mail that everybody receives. But when I call, they can just say, we got it handled, or attorney's doing it, we got another realtor already, those kind of things.
Sure. And one other thing, I think just like the coaching call with Bruce, I'm going to ask your salesperson to reach out to you and compare the logistics of the 2 counties, the numbers. There are some Colorado counties that delay the delivery until the probate is completed, and I'm not really sure offhand which one that is. I don't know if that's the case or Adams. So maybe that's what you're experiencing. Tim, do you know offhand? I don't know offhand. I'd have to look into it. All right, we'll look into that, Jerry. There's a few counties in Colorado, not all of them, that have privacy provisions, and they don't release the data until the probate's completed, which on one hand, you're going to have a much higher percentage that are already listed or sold. On the other hand, the ones that are still remaining, you should have a pretty good conversion rate as far as the people being ready to do something. Yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll look into it, find out who your salesperson is, and have them reach out to you right after the call and kind of compare the logistics in the 2 counties.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Jerry,
I sure appreciate
let me quickly address something you said a second ago with you're getting people on the phone and there's a couple of objections that they gave you. We have a realtor. That's a little bit harder to get around, but our attorney's handling everything and we've got it all taken care of. And anybody who's done a handful of coaching calls with me is probably rolling your eyes because I say this so often. But we need to understand what that means and what that doesn't mean. What that does not mean is we're not going to sell the house. I want you to understand, if they say we have it taken care of, they're not saying we're not going to sell the house. What they are saying is we don't know you, and this is our defense mechanism to get a salesperson off of the phone. And if we recognize that's not a rejection or them saying that they're never going to need our service, that's just strictly their defense mechanism. And I like to validate those defense mechanisms, completely understand. I feel the same way too. You probably don't need a lot from me today. Validate it, leave your name and number. Your name and number is a smoke screen. It's not an end to the call. And then you just simply say, and my last question is, are you guys thinking about eventually selling the real estate you've inherited? Or does it make more sense for you guys to keep that? Because that's what you want to get to at the end of the day, is you want to get to the real estate conversation. And too many of our subscribers and the people I work with here, we've got it all handled, and what they think that the person is saying is we're never going to sell a house. That's not it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, got it. Thanks for clarifying. That's really helpful.
Perfect. Does that help, Jerry? Any other follow-up questions, or are you good?
No, that was it. If someone could just maybe, the sales rep could call me after the call with some information about when the actual probate is completed in Denver and Adams County, and maybe how many leads might be in Adams County.
Absolutely. Somebody will reach out to you right after the call. And I'm just going to add one thing to really drive Bruce's point home. I said it to the last caller that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. And just a classic example of that is, just say you need a new suit. So you walk into a clothing store and the salesperson walks up and says, "Can I help you?" Just an auto response from most people is, "No, I'm just looking." Well, obviously you're there for a reason. You want to buy a suit, but what you're saying to the guy is, "Don't push me, don't rush me, don't sell me something." That is that's a classic and universal reaction to people when they feel cornered or threatened. So it applies whether you're on the phone selling real estate or going into a store buying a suit. So I thought that was a good example. All right, I appreciate it, Jerry, and we'll have somebody reach out to you right after this call.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate everyone's help today on this. Thank you.
Awesome. We only have one more person in the queue. This is rare. And as soon as I say that, we'll probably have 12 people jump in, but hit *6 and hit 1. We don't want to leave any questions unanswered. We'd love to hear your wins, success stories, issues, whatever you need help with. That's why we're here today. And right now, the last one in the queue is phone number ending in 6388.
Hi, guys. So this is Ron Cram in Arizona, and also on the call with me is my partner, Megan Muse. We're just getting started. We've got a credibility website that should be going live hopefully later today, and we're going to begin calling, and the mail will go out soon after. But Megan and I had a question. We want to know, how do we know what our bandwidth is? How do you, let's say we get 100 leads coming in every month, and we want to call those people like every day for the first week or so. How many hours will we have to devote to that activity? And then I actually have 4 months worth of leads because I've been subscribing, but I haven't been doing anything yet. I'm still wanting to learn more about how to do this. So how do we plan out 4 months worth of leads? How do we figure out what our bandwidth is and what we should try to take on per week?
Hey,
Bruce?
Ron, it's Bruce. Hey. I think you're typically going to dial around 30 to 40 numbers per hour, and that's going to vary greatly depending on how many people engage in conversation with you. So that's assuming that probably 75 to 80% are not answering, and of the ones that answer, a handful are blowing you off, and a couple of them are talking with you. So plan on 30 to 40 dials per hour, and then in the first week, normally I would plan on, I know you get somewhere between 3 and 5 numbers per lead in that first week while I'm calling, especially the first few calls. I'm usually calling the number that looks like the most relevant. So the number that looks like it's going to be the cell phone or home phone of the PR. And then I'll go down that list and call the second, third, fourth, and fifth number, provided that the PR hasn't answered the first few times that I've tried. I think it's important to get through your list as many times as possible in that first week. And as far as bandwidth goes, in my experience, if I give, or if one of my agents were to give 4.5 hours of phone prospecting per week, they can handle somewhere around 50 to 60 new leads per month, as long as they have 4.5 hours of prospecting time a week. So that's 1.5 hours, 3 days a week. If you're phone prospecting 12 hours a week, then obviously you can handle more leads. But 50 to 60 is good for 1.5 hours, 3 days a week. And that'll keep you in front of anyone you haven't talked to and followed up with the people that need a follow-up. That'll keep you in front of them for about 6 months before that time allotment becomes unreasonable. Does that make sense?
So you're saying 1.5 hours per day, 3 days a week would be how many leads in a month? 50? Did you say?
Yeah, between 50 and 60 new leads per month added on to your list. And that you should be able to prospect and follow up with them for 6 months before you either need to let that follow-up call go and just not call them anymore, or add more time to your schedule.
Okay.
That's based on calling everyone that you have not interacted with, and that's not based on calling everyone 7 times in the first week. That's really twice a month is pretty much what that shakes out to, is 2 calls a month if you haven't talked to them.
Okay. Now,
does that help? Yep.
That does help. I'm just wondering what you said there, though. You're talking about how there's several numbers. So were you saying that you would call the same person all 5 different numbers that they have before you would move to the next person? Or were you saying that you would call the top number for each person and then go back and call the second number for each person?
In the beginning, in my first week, and I'm not as aggressive as you just described, only because of my bandwidth. In the first week, if I'm going to call them 2 times in that first week, I'm only going to call the top number both times. I'm not going to go to the lower numbers until I've called that top number twice.
Okay.
And then I start calling all the numbers for any lead that I've never gotten after that second call. Now, if you're going to call them 5 times in the first week or 7 times in the first week, there's going to come a point 2 or 3 calls in where you want to start calling the rest of those numbers.
Okay, got it.
But I
That
want
helps.
the PR to prove to me that they're not going to answer my call. And that's usually if they haven't answered or returned my call after 2 calls, then I need to start dropping down that list.
Okay.
We had 3 more people. Thank you. Good. Glad it helped. We had 3 more people jump in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 0055. You're up next.
Hey, guys. A lot of 0s and 5s today.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, go buy a lottery ticket.
Hey, Bruce, we were talking on a coaching call the other day, and I was taking some notes, and so happy to speak with you again. And thanks for sending me that email about the stuff you're going to send. But two things. I'd like to know, how do you respond when someone says, we've got it all covered? I know what you typically say, but we didn't go further on this, and I know you typically say, I completely understand. Do you mind if I share a couple of the things you might want to watch out for? And then I don't have any more notes on that. What would you say, and assume it's an occupied place, whether it's a family member, whatever, so that insurance thing is not going to be any benefit to bragging about that. And so I would like to know about that. And then just as a follow-up, so I was hearing people, because again, I'm new to this, my first mailings are probably going to go out tomorrow, and the concept, I'm hearing calling people 5 times a week. I'm assuming that's only because they haven't been, and you're leaving voicemails. If I'm wrong, then tell me, what do you say on the second one? And so I'll leave it like that for now.
Okay. So first is, do you mind if I share a couple of things with you that you might want to watch out for? I probably said that on a role play or a mastermind call at some point. I guarantee that answer is floating out there somewhere. That's not my normal answer if they say that they have everything handled. My normal answer is just to validate them, throw up a little smoke screen so that they feel heard and understood and not disagreed with. and then pivot over to a different portion of the conversation. So that sounds, hey, that's really good. I was hoping that you'd say that. You probably don't need a ton from me today. Could you take my name and number down? And they say yes. And then you say, here it is. And before I let you go, were you guys eventually planning on selling the real estate, or is that something you were hoping to hold on to? So validate. What I don't want them to feel, I don't want them to feel misunderstood and disagreed with. I want them to feel validated and agreed with before you move to a different question. Okay. So I don't care if somebody says I've got it all handled, because that leaves me a wide open path to ask them about real estate after I validate them. Second part of your question is 5 calls. If somebody answers the phone and you have a dialogue with them, of course you're not going to call them back the next day. You're going to base your follow-up schedule on how that conversation went. If they say, hey, we're not going to do anything for 3 or 4 months, you're probably not going to call them for another 3 weeks or 4 weeks to follow up. It just depends on what kind of idea they give you of their timing.
And you would say it's 3 weeks. You just decide it's going to be 3 weeks. You can put that in the CRM as a task to when to follow up with them.
That's right.
And does the CRM notify you? Do I get an email in the morning say, hey, you got to do these 5 things today? Or do I have to just go check in and just kind of like refresh the thing and get it to see what timeline, what's the next thing up?
I live in my CRM, so I don't pay attention to notices I get because I'm always in the CRM anyway. Tim, does the CRM send a reminder out if you're not looking at your lead list?
I don't believe so, Tim. I think
Okay.
Tim left early, supported all the leads, and somebody will get back to you. But I don't believe that it's
myself. Yeah, it will. It'll let you can book yourself a time there. We're actually making some changes in the CRM to do what you're doing, and ultimately what we're going to have it do is basically allow you to customize it so that you can hopefully start your day off by getting an email from the CRM that says, here's the things you need to go do today. That's the ultimate in terms of how you would want a CRM to react, is based on what you've told it, then it's going to remind you of those things, and you can start your day off with that, and you know what you're supposed to get at. But you can definitely set times and appointments within it. You have to just become familiar with it, and that'll get covered on your intro call.
All right, fantastic. Somebody asked, can you explain, was that for really, truly powerhouse like prospectors? I heard that once before. When is it appropriate for someone to be doing that if they do have a lot of leads and there's a staggering amount of phone numbers to call?
Exactly what you just described. Personally, in our business, we're not using a dialer, but if you're making 3-4 calls per lead per month and you have a few hundred leads each month that you're adding on top of the last month and the last month's leads, then it does make sense to get a dialer. If you're adding 100 leads or fewer on top of yourself every month and you're sticking to a 2-call a month schedule, you don't need a dialer.
Okay, super. Thanks so much, Bruce.
Bruce, are you okay for a few more minutes? We have a couple more people in the queue.
Yep, I've got a hard out in 15, but I'm good until then.
Perfect. No, I'm going to close the queue. We got 2 in there, the last 2. First one is phone number ending in 9942. You're up next.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking my call. My name's Tom Roth. I'm in Keller Williams in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And the reason I tapped in was I was hearing people saying that they were calling their list before they even sent the letter out. And I was puzzled by that because a lot of the people on the list that I get are people who are on the do not call list. And I guess I feel a little sketchy about calling people on a do not call list just out of the blue, especially if they're a PR and they're grieving for whoever passed away. So can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I will start, Tom. I had said after that conversation, that gentleman is a seasoned prospector. He's very comfortable on the phone. The standard program we recommend is do send the letter out first. It's less of a cold call. It's an introduction. As you get better at prospecting and people like him that have hundreds of leads and the time is important to them and maybe they're trying to save a little bit on their budget, it's not a one-size-fits-all program. But for someone like you, what you described, I would personally recommend send the letter out first, especially if it makes you feel more comfortable about making the call. That's important. Get the letter out first. He was the exception to the rule. And to be honest, Bruce is a little bit of the exception to the rule too. Bruce has been doing this a long time. He's very comfortable on the phone. He probably doesn't need that security of knowing that they received his letter as much as other people may. Would you want to add to that, Bruce?
Yeah, I'll mostly agree with you, Jim. I do think that there's some pretty typical dialogue that you can use if they have not gotten a letter with you that really reduces the risk that they're going to be off-put. I don't describe my services when I go into an elevator pitch or when I go into the introduction to my phone call. I'm not describing all the things that I can do because, and as Jim's mentioned a couple of times on this call, nobody likes to be sold. They do like to buy. And so what I do is I describe the type of person that finds a benefit in our help, and I let them select whether they're that type of person or not. And it really cuts down on, and yes, it's advanced. It is a little bit advanced. It cuts down on their anger, which also cuts down on the anger if you're calling, if you choose to call someone that's on the do not call list. I haven't had somebody yell at me in a long time because I just don't have a dialogue that's off-putting.
I do a lot of phone calls, but I'm just trying to think, how would I structure that with somebody who doesn't know me and is just getting a call out of the blue? And do you reference the person who's deceased, or you just say, I understand you're the personal representative for Mr. Zuck, and I'm just calling to see if there's anything I can do to help you during this time of grief?
So that approach, I usually do not represent, or usually do not mention the deceased. One of my probate partners does mention the deceased, and there is a way that you can do so without being off-putting, but normally I coach most people to just say, I'm calling because, so this comes after your initial greeting, comes pretty early in the conversation. I'm calling because I have a team that basically helps certain families that are going through the probate process, and I really don't know if what we do is for you or not. Could I take 25 seconds and tell you the type of person that we help and let you decide if we should talk any further?
Okay.
I mean, anybody that gets mad at that, they're just an angry person.
They're just angry people.
Yeah.
All right. I think what I'm going to have to do is schedule a coaching call with you, so we can go over that a little bit.
Yep.
All right.
Do that, and the only other thing I would add to what Bruce just said is you said something earlier that I think is one thing that you need to think about your mindset when you make these phone calls. You're making the assumption, or you may be making the assumption, that everybody who's a personal representative is still grieving over the loss of the person that's there. And you may, in fact, find that in many of the cases that the people that you're talking to, their relationship with the deceased, while it might be that they may be grieving, you're going to find a goodly number of them that aren't. And the longer it has been since the date of death, the sting of that has somewhat gone away. So the concern that you're expressing in regard to their grief and all of that, you're typically a little bit better staying away from that rather than calling that out. It's fine to be empathetic, but you don't know the person. You don't really know anything about the relationship between them. And if you approach this more from a very straightforward services standpoint, you're on very safe ground. If you start talking about the time of, if you start being sympathetic and expressing concern like that, it sometimes comes off sounding a bit more hollow because you really don't know them. You don't know the person that passed away and could have been a blessing and all that sort of stuff. So don't always approach it as it's a grieving person that you're talking to, because a lot of times it isn't.
So leave that out of the conversation.
I would. It's just not necessary, and it forces you as the caller, and certainly please don't take that as me saying it's wrong for what you said. It's great to have feeling in your heart, but you got to think about the other side of that equation. You may be bringing something up that they're not thinking about, and emotions are tough to deal with. And unless there's a raw emotion on the other end of that line, don't go there.
Yeah, I made a note to myself, change my assumption on the part that people are grieving, because you don't know. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Perfect. Hopefully that helped. The last up this week is phone number ending in 4319. You're up last.
Thank you for taking my call, and I'm glad to be the last person, so I'll try to keep this brief here. My name is Carlos Evans, and I'm a real estate agent in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm not necessarily new to probate. I've done some deals prior to getting involved with all the leads. So I've been involved with you guys for about a year, and I was getting some leads. I actually had maybe 3 or 4 mail campaigns that went out, and I just really didn't get any response, so maybe I got a little bit discouraged, and then obviously COVID hit, so I put things on pause. I'm not mailing, but I'm getting leads back now. So I'm just trying to get some direction on how to get things ramped up. I've already booked a call session for February 4th, but any advice or encouragement that you can share with me in reference to now that I'm getting leads again, the campaign that I was running, I got nothing from it. So maybe it was a little discouraging for me, but I know that the system works, but I was just hoping to get some direction from you guys.
Where are you located? What county?
So I get Montgomery County, Maryland leads, and I was going to possibly look at adding Prince George's County, Maryland.
And when did you stop getting the leads? At what point?
I think I stopped it right around June of last year.
Okay. I'm going to make an off-the-wall suggestion to you, and certainly you're going to be talking with Bruce in February, but I'm going to make a suggestion to you that you go back and did you have any conversations with anybody? Did you scrub the list down at all on the ones that you got as late as June of last year?
I had a few conversations, and I was hoping I do call expireds and FSBO, so I'm fine with making the phone calls. Just the probate dialogue just seemed a little bit long for me, so I just need to brush up my communication on that with the probate leads. So
here's what I
would say probably I've had very few conversations from the probate list at this point.
I certainly want Bruce and Jim to chime in as well, but the one thing I was going to say is that if you have a set of older leads, which you do obviously, and
yes,
you'd already gone through them, what we can certainly tell you, and this is based on many years now of history in this, and as you heard when we started the call, this is our 300 and something round of doing these calls. These leads season awfully well. And what you should know is that there are a goodly number of the people that you got in June and before that have never done anything at all with that property. Some of them for the reasons that you heard on this call. The house was full of furniture. COVID has kept them from moving as quickly as they wanted. And if you contact those people now, if you contact them, you're going to be the only one that's doing it. Everybody else has already given up. Everybody else is going after them early on and not going back after the seasoned leads. And I would recommend you consider just take a flyer on one shot of doing a quick round of mail, pick 50 people from your old set, and send a letter that says, I tried reaching you back in the early summer last year in regard to the possibility you might have a house still sitting in probate. You're likely to find you're the only one that's prospecting them, and they've done nothing. And that's immediate low-hanging fruit. Jim and Bruce are going to talk to you about the marketing to your current list and how to do that. But go back after the list that's there. There's gold in that list. And Jim will tell you Jim's favorite time to prospect them is when they're old, when he's had them for a while. Jim?
Okay.
Yeah, 1 to 2 years, and I've gone 2 to 3 years. I've never gone back and worked that group of leads that I didn't get a couple deals out of it. And I'm just flipping now. I don't really list anymore. And you hear the same kind of stories. Like a year, we were fighting with my family. We finally agreed what to do. We just couldn't get ourselves to go through the stuff. There was issues, legal issues, and we finally got them all resolved. There's a variety of reasons, but I'm working 2 right now that both of them were nearly 2 years ago that the probate was filed. And both of them, when I called, said a year or 2 ago, I was getting letters and people were calling, and they always tell me, you're the only one that's contacted me in the last 6 months or the last year. 90% of them are going to be sold, but the 10% that aren't, like Tim said, they're ready to do something. You've got no competition. So I wouldn't do that instead of your current campaign, but absolutely do it in addition to. Yeah, that's gravy. Bruce, I know you've got to go in 2 minutes. Anything real quick you want to add?
Sure. Basically, the old leads, I probably would fire off 1 letter. They're a little older. If they were only 6 months old, you might want to do 2 or 3 letters. But make whatever you send to your older leads a little bit more real estate direct. Your newer leads, your campaign length is important. So it is important to prospect and campaign to these people more than 6 months. A lot of them are not making decisions in the first quarter of their probate process. Mail, especially in larger areas that are growing, Northern Virginia, D.C., Maryland around D.C., where I live, Mail doesn't always get a whole lot of inbound traffic, but what mail gets is that person that answers the phone in 2 or 3 months that you've tried several times, and they answer the phone 2 or 3 months and they say, I've been getting your mail, I'm just super busy, I was thinking about calling you. And they already have a good understanding of what you are. And using a pattern disruptor when they answer the phone of saying, hey, do you recognize my name? It frequently gets them to say, yeah, I know who you are. That you're on really solid ground when you talk to that person. So for me, mail and voicemail is all about getting a series of frequent and extensive touches in on that person while I know that they're dealing with the other junk that goes along with probate, because they're dealing with a lot and they're just not going to do anything. Funny story real fast is one of my agents on my team had an aunt die in Montgomery County, right where you are. And it took him a year to get the house ready. And the last trip that he took up there was about 6 months ago, and I talked to him while he was driving to Montgomery County, and he said, Bruce, if you ever have a family member that you hate and you just want to punish them for being a terrible family member, make them the executor for your estate. And that's what some people, not all, that's what some people are feeling like. They're like, how did I get roped into this? And that's the reason that they're not always making a selling decision in the first couple of months, which is great for you and great for me, because our competition quits after 2 months. And if you can follow through with it and keep on the phone specifically, you're going to have some conversion.
Okay. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the call next month.
Perfect. Thank you, Carlos. Perfect timing. Bruce, I know you got to run. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to particularly thank those who actively participated. And like I always do, I want to challenge each of you. Take one thought, one idea, one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice and come back next Wednesday and Thursday. We get a bonus call next week and share your results with the group. Thank you, guys. Stay healthy, stay productive, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.